Coming up on this week's Weird News, we have stories about drug bananas, emergency pizza rescue, my daughter's my grandchild, and an armed response for a lorry crash.
And now, it's time for this week's Weird News with Daniel Bryan.
Hello and welcome to this week's Weird News. Here we are again for episode 11. We have had a great response from last week's show where we introduced our new feature called TWWN Music, with Luke Potter being our first up-and-coming artist. Don't forget to check out the website at www.thisweeksweirdnews.com and check out our TWWN Music tab, where you'll find out more about our featured artists. On last week's show, we had stories about a woman who goes out of her way to adopt dead babies and give them respectable funerals. A young woman who was addicted to drinking Red Bull and got to the point where she was drinking 24 cans a day. A girlfriend's punishment to her boyfriend that could be deemed questionable as to whether she was a worse person than he was. And a South Korean school who held a sleeping contest to raise awareness for sleep deprivation. If you missed any of these stories, listen back to our previous episodes on the website, on iTunes, on YouTube, on the Player FM app for Android phones, and any other podcast feeds that you use. After today's stories, you'll have the chance to get in contact with the show, with your views and comments, and these will be featured on next week's show. Contact details will be given at the end of the programme. Also, at the end of the show today, we have our second TWWN music feature, and today we are showcasing a beautiful song from a young girl called Amanda Lopiccolo, so stay tuned for that. I don't know if any of you heard this week, but we got a mention on the Whiskey Boy Radio podcast. So if any of you are new listeners as a result of that, welcome along, we hope you enjoy the show. This week there have been many major headlines around the world. A royal baby was born here in the UK, and it's been named Charlotte Elizabeth Diana. The UK parliamentary elections have taken place, and David Cameron is our Prime Minister again for the next 5 years, but this time without the coalition. These have been the major headlines of the week, but now it's time for the weird and wonderful news over the last week that you may have missed. Our stories today come from week 19, 2015, or as some of you may prefer, the 4th to the 10th of May.
Story number 1.
Workers at an Aldi store in Berlin had a surprise this week. Aldi is a budget supermarket that over recent years has grown in numbers as people's shopping habits have changed, and now people avoid larger supermarkets in favour for the cheaper Aldi alternative. Workers at the store had their usual food delivery, and while unpacking their bananas, they discovered £11 million worth of cocaine. The cocaine was wrapped up with the bananas as a strategic attempt to get it through border control. The idea being, if you can find the most mundane, everyday product and hide it within, you may have a chance of getting it through. So how did this cocaine end up at the Aldi supermarket? And was it meant to be sent there? Well, police say they can only put it down to a logistical mistake. Or in other words, however, the courier firm, they mucked up and dropped off the package at the wrong place. As you can imagine, there must be someone out there with a red face as they open up their box of purely just bananas. Even more bizarrely, this is not the first time this has happened. Back in January, another £5 million worth of cocaine was delivered to the very same store. I don't know about you, but if I was an international drug lord shipping copious millions of pounds worth of drugs all over the place, I'd be on the phone to that courier firm wanting at least a partial refund.
Ba 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 na na, ba 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 na na, oh ba 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 na na.
Story number 2.
Can I take your order, please?
Pizza Hut this week were praised by the police. But not for their pizza like you'd think, but for their help stopping a crime. Cheryl Treadway, who is 25, is a regular customer of her local Pizza Hut in Avon Park, Central Florida. She lived with her boyfriend Ethan and her 3 children, aged 1, 5 and 6. Sadly, however, everything wasn't so hunky-dory between the couple. They had been arguing all day, and Ethan had become aggressive. He had taken Cheryl's mobile phone away from her, and he had armed himself with a knife. They later went out together to collect the children from school before returning home, where he held her captive in the house and didn't allow her any communication with the outside world. They continued arguing. Ethan briefly gave Cheryl her mobile phone back so she could order pizza for dinner, but she only had long enough to order the pizza and not long enough to dial 911. Cheryl, however, cleverly, while ordering the pizza online, added a message to her order. The message read, 911, hostage, help. Now, whether she thought anyone at the Pizza Hut would take her seriously, or if she was so desperate that she just thought she had to give it a go, I don't know. But, luckily for her, the staff at Pizza Hut noticed the message and contacted the police. When the police arrived, they found Ethan with the knife, but luckily he surrendered peacefully. Ethan is now facing jail charges of kidnap, battery causing bodily harm, aggressive assault with a deadly weapon, and obstruction of justice. His bail is currently set at $450,000. So well done to the staff at Pizza Hut in Avon Park, Florida. Without them, who knows what could have happened? The only thing from this story that remains to be asked is, did the pizza Cheryl ordered get delivered? Were her children still hungry? So next time you need help, don't call 911. Just order a pizza. You can become part of this week's Weird News. This section of the show could be dedicated to you. Sponsor the show and we can fill this section with a tailor-made advert just for you. Reach your audience in a different way with the power of a podcast. We are open to your ideas, so get in touch at thisweeksweirdnews@gmail.com. Get on board with us now as our listeners grow and we can reach more and more subscribers together.
Story number 3.
One mum is hoping to give birth to her granddaughter. I'll give you a minute to consider that one. Yep. She wants to have her daughter's baby. Yeah, it's still rather confusing, right? Well, the woman, who's age 59, and her husband, age 58, are currently in a legal battle with courts to allow her to use her daughter's frozen eggs to allow them to have their daughter's baby. Or their grandchild. The couple's daughter sadly passed away in her 20s of bowel cancer, and the couple say it was their daughter's dying wish for her frozen eggs to be fertilised by a donor and implanted into her mother's womb. Initially, it was their daughter's wish that she herself would have the baby in the future, but she sadly lost her battles with the cancer. After initially requesting that their daughter's eggs were shipped from the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority here in the UK, they received a refusal, as there was insignificant evidence to show that their daughter wanted her mother to carry her child. Before her death, the couple's daughter completed a form, which gave consent for the eggs to be stored for use after her death. But she crucially didn't fill out a separate form that indicates how she wants the eggs to be used. It is on these grounds that the refusal was made, as the consent was invalid. Further to getting the release of her daughter's eggs, they've also had a struggle to find a clinic willing to create the embryos using IVF, due to her age and the fact that women over 50 have a limited chance of success, and there are extra risks involved. They've eventually found a place in New York, but at the estimated price of $60,000 for the privilege. The outcome of this is yet to be decided as to whether the eggs get released from storage and given to the couple, but maybe we'll hear in the not too distant future. So what do you think? Is it wrong for grandparents to give birth to their grandchild? Would the child be subject to bullying as a result of this? Or is it nice that they're completing their daughter's dying wish, and they will love the child just as much? Get in touch with your views.
Story number 4.
In Swindon, here in the UK, there was a crash involving a lorry. No other vehicles were involved, and it was believed that it was caused by heavy braking up to a roundabout, and the cargo in the back sliding forward and breaking through the front of the trailer. Armed police were immediately called to the scene and surrounded the vehicle to prevent anyone getting near it. But why, you ask? Well, this lorry was carrying more than £1 million, but not in notes, all in coins, hence the weight being flung forward. The coins spilled out all over the road. Now, if you're wandering down that road at the time, just trundling along, and you saw this much money all over the ground, would you take a bag or two? or grab handfuls and disappear before anyone notices. As you can imagine, there's always going to be people tempted. As a result, an immediate response from the armed police was required before things got out of hand. With this quick response, it's believed that no money was stolen. The money was then transferred to another vehicle to complete its journey. No information has been given as to where the money was travelling from or going to, as it was described as a security risk to disclose such information. No one was hurt in the incident, and there were delays around the area for about an hour and a half, while the coins collected and the lorry moved off. So, is it worth going back there to have a look for leftover coins? Or any, down a drain or down the side of a curb? Who knows? But if that new lorry wants to take a detour and come via my house, then, feel free. And there we have it. This week's 4 news stories, and I hope you enjoyed them enough to tell your friends and to get in contact with the show about with your views and comments. Send your comments to
thisweeksweirdnews@gmail.com
or comment on any of our social media pages.
Comment on Facebook at facebook.com/thisweeksweirdnews or on Twitter @weeksweirdnews.
Or you can go to our website where you'll find all these contact details and more about the show. To do this, go to
www.thisweeksweirdnews.com.
And now it's time for our new feature on the show, where we're going to showcase this week's up-and-coming talent in the music world. Last week, we had Luke Potter with his song So Sugar, and this week, we have been blessed by a beautiful song from a young lady called Amanda Lopiccolo. Amanda runs a YouTube channel to help people with depression and those who have slipped into self-harming. The song featured today is titled Dark Enough and was written by Amanda to tell people that no matter who you are, whatever you're going through, or how you feel day after day, that there is always someone out there who believes in you, loves you, and wants you to succeed in life. Check out Amanda's YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/user/awesomelyitalian. That's OSUMLY Italian. So hopefully this song will bring a smile to a few people's faces out there. And even if you're not suffering from any form of depression, I'm sure you'll be able to appreciate the lyrics and what a wonderful voice that Amanda has. Check out our website at www.thisweeksweirdnews.com and click on the TWWN music tab to listen again to Dark Enough and find links to Amanda's Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to her YouTube channel. On a slightly more positive note, it's about 4 weeks away from Amanda's 18th birthday, so let me be the first to wish you a very happy birthday, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week with more weird and wonderful news from around the world. Now, to play us out, it's Amanda Lopiccolo with Dark Enough.
There is a girl in the front of my class who I swear I've never seen do anything but laugh. She's tall and she's smart, beautiful and strong, and when someone's down, she tries to fix what is wrong. How does someone so perfect feel so insecure as to scar her skin with cuts and burns and still want to hurt more? How does someone so loving learn to hate her own guts, drawing a picture on her arms with a blade as if her mind isn't dark enough? There is a girl in the front of my class whose eyes are glazed over like newly caught glass. The ghost of a smile inside her face, and she laughs as they tell her who's on first base. How does someone so perfect feel so insecure as to scar her skin with cuts and burns and still want to hurt more? How does someone so loving a picture on her arm with a blade, as if her mind isn't dark enough. There is a girl in the front door, my class is so sad. You find it rare to see her smile alive. Her friends tell her jokes like that one with a guy, but all she does is close her eyes and enter her mind. How does someone so perfect feel so insecure as to scar her skin with cuts and burns and still want to hurt more? How does someone so loving learn to hate her own guts, drawing a picture on her arms with a blade, as if her mind isn't dark enough for her imperfections? There was a girl in the front of my class who yesterday took the breath that was her last. She wrote a few notes, I'm sorry I didn't say, but my mind was messed up, you couldn't save me anyway. And to the girl in the back of the class that feels the way I did. How does someone so perfect feel so insecure as to scar her skin with cuts and burns and still want to hurt more?
Join us next time for more weird and wonderful news from around the world. Only on this week's Weird News. Goodbye.